evening. My name is Scott Miller. I serve as the Superintendent of School City of Hammond. What we're going to be going over tonight is a presentation on the strategic plan for the school system, where we are in that process, what is to come. But the exciting news is we have some draft statements to share on our mission, vision, a set of core values, and 6 priorities for the district to work on over the next 3 to 5 years. So I'd like to begin by explaining what a strategic plan is. Essentially, this is prioritizing out of all the many things that we could be focusing our resources on, what's most important for the school system. So what are we gonna surround our hiring around? What are we gonna surround our money around? What are the things that we're gonna put our energy and talents around over the next 3 to 5 years? Because we can't, as much as we would want to do everything, it's impossible to invest in everything. So we have to prioritize, and that's what the strategic plan does for us. It lets the community know, lets all of us know that this is what is important to School City of Hammond. So this process started when, here's 7 steps on the screen here, when the board approved Dr. Brad Balch from Indiana State, a professor emeritus who's had experience working with urban districts on strategic planning, to come work with the board and ultimately with the community group to help formulate a new mission, vision, core values, and priorities for the district. Each trustee was able to nominate 5 people to serve on the working committee. Many ended up being duplicates that trustees wanted the same person on, and they were all invited to come serve on the board. Some agreed, some declined, some agreed and didn't show up, but an invitation was extended. And through the process, about 30 different people from the community, from the school city administration, and ultimately the board were involved in developing these draft statements. Primarily, the community members met last summer and worked on this, and then the last school year happened, which was full of challenges for not just School City of Hammond, but schools in general, and the work was set aside for a time, never permanently with that intention, but we brought it back this spring, and the community group came back and presented to the board their work, and the board was able to give some feedback. We tweaked it. There is actually a public work session that you could look up on our School City YouTube channel if you wanted to see that meeting, where the board offered their feedback and we settled on some draft statements that I'm going to be presenting shortly. At this point, what I'm going to be talking about as well at the end is we do have a live survey on our homepage where we're asking community members, teachers, staff members, students, anyone who has a vested interest in School City of Hammond to give us your feedback. And I'm going to actually pull up that survey at the end of the presentation and go through it with you. But it will really only take about 5 minutes of your time. Like I said, it is live on our School City webpage, right on the homepage. That's where we're at so far in the process. The next steps is after the survey completes in about 2 weeks, we're going to take that feedback, share it with the trustees. Dr. Balch is actually the one who is collecting all the feedback, so School City Administration is not messing with it. No one internally is messing with it. We have the independent third party gathering all the data, and they're going to be presenting all of the results, good, bad, or indifferent, to the trustees to see if we need to tweak anything, if we missed anything, if there is maybe an overriding theme from the community feedback that is not part of the strategic plan currently that we need to consider incorporating. My hope is at the second board meeting in September that we're in a good enough spot for the board to approve the mission, vision, core values of the district and the 6 priorities. If the board does that in September, then it is the administration's responsibility, and we've already begun this process, is to develop an action plan around those 6 priorities. And to say, okay, if one of the priorities, we'll go over all 6 in a moment, but one of the priorities is student achievement. So how are we going to improve student achievement? That's what the action planning process is. This is year 1. This is what we're going to do. These are the resources we're going to dedicate. This is the expected outcome. These are the people responsible for that phase of the action plan. Year 2, same type of thing as we plan out how we're going to improve student achievement in School City of Hammond. Once the action plans are developed around the 6 priorities, the board will vote to approve the action plan. My hope that happens in November, with the final plan then being shared with the public in December before the year is over. That is my goal. We have an election coming up. That this is an initiative of the current board, that we get this accomplished before this year is over. And that will be our plan for the next 3 to 5 years to accomplish for School City of Hammond. So to begin with, the first thing that the community group did was they wanted to identify what's most important to us. What do we think are the core values that School City of Hammond needs to be about? And they're really not ranked in any order, but I will say there is probably some significance in the way that they're presented here. Number one that was affirmed by really everyone was equity for all. And equity, again, is not equality, but equity is this concept that whether you're a student, you're a staff member, you're a parent, you're interacting with us in a community function, that equity is a core value, that students are getting what they need. That's what, at all levels, in all abilities, whatever your background is, students are getting what they need to be successful. Equity for everyone. For our employees too, that our employees feel that there's just a general fairness about School City of Hammond, that we're not treating one group or one person a certain way and the next person in the same circumstance gets treated a completely different way. So we want to make sure that that's part of what we're doing in School City of Hammond. Also, mutual respect for all. I believe strongly that respect is the foundation of all healthy relationships, that whether that's student to teacher, or it's principal to staff, or superintendent with the community, that we have to have respect for one another, which means we have to listen. It means we have to seek to understand the other person's point of view and not just demand things our own way. It means the way we speak to each other is important. It does. It means the way we speak to each other is important because the kids are watching. That's a big part of it as well. When they see the adults showing respect for each other, that modeling of behavior is important for how the kids treat one another. But respect has to be part of what we do in School City of Hammond. Open communication that builds trust. So yes, it's been identified for a long time that School City can do better with communicating. That's both internally, that's how we communicate amongst ourselves in School City, how we make sure with our 12 elementary schools that each of the elementaries are on the same page, with our entire 18 school buildings, that everyone is marching to the same cadence, but that communication externally is building trust with the community, that when we say we're going to do something that we follow through, that if we say we're going to be here at this place at this time, that it's well organized and that people know about it in advance and that we're doing a good job with that. Being fully engaged in opportunities for academic advancement and whole child growth. I mentioned yesterday that it can't be one or the other, or one for the sake of the other. They are both intrinsically linked. That for our students to achieve their academic potential, we have to look at that through a lens of what do they need? What are the things that are going to help them to reach their academic potential? So it might be nutrition, it might be medical, it might be wellness, it might be mental health. All of those things, but not every kid it's going to be the same. But the goal isn't just whole child growth, it's also the academics. That's primarily what we do as a school, is to work on academics. So it's not one for the other, it's not saying one's more important to the other, it's that we recognize that as a school system, one of our core values is academics is tied to the needs of the whole child. Measurable objectives that are clear, consistent, here's that equitable word again, fair for all students and stakeholders. So this came out of the community groups, that they wanted to make sure that one of the things that we articulated in our core values is that we have to be consistent and we have to be clear. So this expresses itself in a lot of different ways. It expresses itself in our policies, so employees know what to expect and that there's this fairness and equity that is in our policies, that students know what's fair, that if we have a policy on dress in our schools, that at one school a child is not punished and in another school they are permitted. That's not fair to our kids to have mixed messages. Or if something that we say that we shouldn't do this behavior, then an adult does it, but then we punish a student for the behavior. So those are things that we have to be clear about, And that consistency piece was very important to the community group. Promoting mental health, wellness, and safety within our school communities. We could talk a lot about each one of these pieces, but in 2022, this is something, looking forward over the next 3 to 5 years, this has to be a core value for us. That we're looking at students' mental health. The pandemic has had a toll on our kids, in more than just their academic achievement, and and the adults, honestly, as well. So this is an issue. Safety, obviously, is paramount for our schools. Students and all stakeholders giving their best effort while setting high standards of lifelong success. So all the things we do to help a student is never to lower the bar. I'll say that again. None of the things that we're trying to do to assist students is to lower the bar. All of the interventions we do, whether like I said, it's nutrition or health or mental health, or additional supports, tutoring, those things are to help students achieve the mark that is set for them. And this was very important to the committee, that nothing was interpreted that, hey, we're just focusing on these other things. No, we're keeping the bar where it is because we know that's where the bar is set once they leave School City of Hammond. They're not going to be with us forever. We have to set the standard where society expects the standard to be. So those core values led to the following vision statement. Through strengthened relationships, we create positive and inclusive learning environments that build on the ability of all scholars to be healthy, confident, socially responsible, critical thinkers, and problem solvers. There's a lot there. There's a lot of points in this vision statement. A couple things I'd like to point out. You see the word relationships in there. The committee really wanted to stress that we believe that the way to help kids reach their potential academically, in every other way, is through building positive relationships with them. That means that our teachers not only know our students' names, but they know a bit about our kids, and they're building that positive relationship through the context of the classroom. We create positive and inclusive learning environments. That's what we want to define our classroom, that all of our classrooms are inclusive. No matter your background, your gender, your sexuality, whatever it is, we want you to feel that you're accepted, that fundamentally your identity is accepted in a School City of Hammond classroom. And they're positive. That's what we need in this world. We need positivity. Build on the ability of all scholars. Healthy, confident was another word the committee wanted to make sure was in there, that we wanted to make sure our kids knew that they had the ability to achieve. That they weren't being told, no, you can't do this, but that you can. The aspect of social responsibility. And then the last part, critical thinkers and problem solvers, I think relates to the world of work and the expectation of employers, that they want our graduates to come out not shutting down the first time they encounter a problem, but be able to think through that, come up with new ideas, and continue to move forward. There's a lot here, but I think you can see the value about this vision statement, that we really wanted to stress that all scholars, we wanted to stress the relationship aspect of it, and we wanted to stress in some level the outcomes, critical thinkers, socially responsible, problem solvers, confident. Like that would be great. Like if when your loved one graduates a Hammond school, if we can say that about your child, healthy, confident, socially responsible, a critical thinker and problem solver, that's a nice statement to say about any graduate from a Hammond school. So what's our mission then? If that's our vision for what a Hammond graduate is, what's our mission? Building on our rich history and proud legacy of success, we empower our diverse group of scholars by advocating for and providing equitable educational opportunities. So the committee wanted to acknowledge the rich history of Hammond. I talked to so many alumni and graduates from Hammond schools. They're proud to have come to Hammond. They're proud to go to Hammond Tech, to Clark, to Hammond High, to Morton, to Gavitt. We want to acknowledge our history, build on that, and empower our students, again, by providing equitable educational opportunities. For students of all ability levels, all talents, we want to nurture those things. All right. So the real meat of a strategic plan, you can have the statements, and the statements are important, but the real meat is the priorities, because this is what we're really going to be focusing on. Again, our resources, and resources are our human resources, our financial resources, and our time and talents, and our energy. These are also not necessarily ranked as 1 being the highest priority and 6 being the lowest priority, but number 1 really is the highest priority, and that is student success. Like, that is why we are a school system, is to help students be successful. So we know there's some room for growth there on things like standardized test scores. We know we do some things really well with our students. We have a lot of positive student success stories that we could talk about, but there's areas that we do need to grow. So priority number 1 will be looking at where are those areas that we need our students to grow in, like standardized test performance, and then how are we going to achieve that? What's going to be the plan at all grade levels where students are testing on or above grade level, and ultimately they lead to successful outcomes. Priority number 2, retention of staff and students. Again, anyone watching this knows that School City of Hammond has been losing students over the past 10 years. It's what led to the consolidation of the high schools. We've lost students. We need to take a deep dive into that and figure out, are there systemic issues in School City of Hammond that are causing a loss of students? Is it just a gradual decline nationwide we're losing students, or are there things we could be doing better to make sure students stay in School City of Hammond schools? Right along with that, same question for our staff. What do we need to be doing? Is it purely compensation, or is there other things we can be doing as a school system to make employees feel valued, to make it really hard for them to want to leave and go to a different school system? Those are the things we want to do with priority 2, is examine what are some of these root causes of why students and staff leave the school system. Priority number 3 is a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. As a district, we're nearing 90% minority student status as a school system, and it's not a surprise to anyone that our staff doesn't match up that same degree of minority status. So what do? Well, we have to have a commitment to DEI that is real and legitimate, and that is measurable, and that can show that we are investing in making sure that our staff is being able to relate to our students, and that our students feel a safety that, again, and acceptance in their classrooms that they can grow, So priority number 3 is going to be, how do we do that? How do we do that over a 3 to 5 year period? Is it training? Well, that's part of it, but what else can we be doing through DEI to make sure that we're the best we can be? Priority number 4 goes with that core value of communication building trust, is how are we going to be more strategic about improving our communication? We've invested in public relations and marketing specialists, Mr. George, who's in front of me here. But what are some of the other things we can do to make sure that people feel that connection to School City of Hammond? That not just internally people know what we're doing, but our external stakeholders know exactly what we're doing with School City. And when they have a concern, that they don't feel that it's a problem to call someone, that they feel that they can talk to someone that they know and they can have their problem solved. That all goes with improved communication. Priority number 5, fiscally responsible. There are some realities of running a school district in Indiana. There are. They led to the consolidation of our schools. So we have to be fiscally responsible, which means sometimes we have to say no to good ideas. Sometimes we have to prioritize what we're doing and narrow the focus and not try to be everything to everyone, so we can do certain things at a really high level. Part of that is being fiscally responsible, making sure that we're living within our means. Fundamentally, a school system is no different than an individual. If you as an individual spend more than you bring in, eventually you end up in trouble. If the school system continues to spend more than they bring in, eventually we end up in trouble. So we have to make sure we're avoiding that. And some of these are interconnected. You can see how retention of students would affect fiscal responsibility, when in Indiana, 90% of our funding comes from the number of students attending your school system. The last priority, priority 6, is a united district community. There was a general desire from the community, from the community who participated on this, that we're better together than when we're working against each other. That when we're united as a whole Hammond community, not our neighborhoods, not our smaller areas, but when we're united as a Hammond community together for the students, that's when we're our strongest. That's when we're our strongest. I believe that 100%. And we've seen some evidence of this changing. I mentioned this yesterday, but we had a situation we hadn't had before in the spring here when we had a band concert and people came late and we had to say, I'm sorry, we sold out of every seat. We had every seat because people were showing up. They came out. People from Robertsdale, people from East Hammond, people from the Gavitt community, they all showed up. That's a really good thing. And it's an encouraging sign of things to come, that people will rally around our school system and our kids. That's what this goal is about, that we are together. We can have our fun competition between Morton and Hammond Central, but really we have to be united as a school system, all working for a common cause for the kids. Those are the 6 priorities. So here they are just in a graphic form. Student success, retention of staff students, commitment to DEI, improved communication, fiscally responsible, united district-wide community with School City of Hammond in the middle. I like this quote, shared it yesterday. We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. It's just that what that quote means is that we have to be in this together. Like, we have to be united. The fate of one is the fate of all. Like, we can't just say, well, that was good for some and not for others. We have to be committed to all the kids. All right. So the last part, and Mr. George is going to come up here and help me with it, is the community survey. There was a technical glitch yesterday. That's solved. It is now on our webpage and live and working. And he's going to switch to it. I'm going to go through the questions so you can kind of see it right now. There is a video if you want to hear, but you've heard way more that's in the video. The video is only 1 minute, but I've explained it way more through this presentation. All right. So the first section talks about the core belief statements and what the purpose of them are, and then it lists the core belief statements that the committee and board have come up with, and then a binary yes or no question. We want to know fundamentally, do these statements resonate with you or not? Yes or no. But if you have comments or things you'd like the committee to consider, you have a narrative box there, and you can type in anything you want, any length of feedback on the core beliefs. Almost the same concept with vision. What is a vision statement? Here's the proposed statement. Does it resonate, yes or no? And then a box for you to add any comments. The comments are all optional. You don't have to put in any comments if you don't want to. Same thing with the mission. What is the purpose of a mission statement? Our proposed statement, yes or no, does it resonate? And then an option for a box. Now he's going to have to, if we were going to go to the next page, he would have to fill in some of these items, the yes or no's at least. But the same thing for the priorities. It's going to ask you for each of the 6 priorities, does this resonate? Do you have any other feedback for priorities that we may be missing? I will say 6 is a lot. They're all valuable priorities. Typically, a strategic plan has 3 to 4 priorities. So adding more is probably not the best. We'd have to replace one or exchange one, but that's where we're at with that. Nate, can you just pull up the School City of Hammond homepage? It's on the left tab so we can show everybody where to find it. If you just scroll down. Oh, do you have it on the banner too? Okay, it's on the banner. Whoop, he passed it up. Where you can just click here and it'll take you to the survey, or if you scroll down, on the home page, it's the very first district news item. You can click on either link and it takes you directly to the survey. All right. I would like to acknowledge that I have two trustees in attendance. I have trustee Carlotta Blake King and trustee Cindy Murphy here. Yeah, and I see Hammond Councilman Barry Tyler Jr. here. Thank you for coming out tonight. We really only have one other community member here. Did you have any questions, sir, of anything you saw or comments?
No, not in particular. I don't have any children in the school city of Hammond, but I am a previous student myself in the school city of Hammond.
Okay,
I did kind of want to come out and say what the community's doing, what the school city's doing,
great.
and then also just make a presence. As somebody who used to be a former coach here in the school city of Hammond, did leave the school city of Hammond, getting some aquatic programming brought back into the school city of Hammond, seeing what kind of support there would be for something like that with the two high schools.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude this presentation, and the survey is open and live, and we sincerely encourage you to participate. Thank you very much.